All right, so my producers have set up another surprise guest for my birthday, and I'm really excited to find out who this is. So let's see. Robbie!
Hi, Kim. Happy birthday.
Thank you, Robbie. What's on your radar, Robbie?
It's so nice to see you. How have you
So good to
been?
have you here for my birthday surprise show that my producers put together. They wouldn't tell me who the guests were. They booked the guests. They wouldn't tell me, and it's so great. It's so great to see you. So happy that you're here.
Great to see you too.
Oh,
Happy to be among your birthday guests.
oh, thank you. Well, since I have you here, really, what is on your radar, Robbie?
Sure. Well, I've been paying close attention to all this TikTok stuff. That feels like what everybody's talking about, at least in Washington
Yes.
right now. Yeah, all the concerns about TikTok. And my perspective has been, so I watched that hearing obviously last week with the TikTok CEO, being really grilled in tremendously bipartisan fashion, actually, about concerns with TikTok. I understand and appreciate some of the concerns being raised about whether the Chinese government can affect the content on the platform, cause censorship, the data collection, all that kind of stuff. Totally get it. I'm not turning a blind eye to that. But at the same time, a lot of that censorship was happening on American social media companies at the behest of the American government too. And I'm really actually worried about a lot of the strategies that are being proposed that would give the U.S. government more the ability to ban TikTok and ultimately have more control over social media in general, because they have not used this power for good so far at all with, as well as I do, speech relating to COVID, Hunter Biden, elections, the FBI, the CDC, the State Department, the DHS, and on and on and on. So, and Tucker Carlson actually raised this on his monologue on Fox News last night, saying this Restrict Act, which is one of the strategies for banning TikTok, it would like allow the Commerce Department to basically take action against any foreign threat on social media, which they've used the kind of Russian disinformation pretext to really affect free speech. So I'm again, it's not because I'm like love TikTok or something. I love the Chinese government. I don't, but I'm concerned that we would Patriot Act ourselves again here.
Yeah, who brought forward the Restrict Act? Is
So
this
it's a bipartisan act.
oh, really?
John Thune is one of them, Romney, and there are Democrats who signed on to it as well.
Oh, interesting. So, and they're wanting to ban TikTok. Is that what they're looking to do specifically? Like get rid of it entirely?
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
So basically, everyone in the U.S. government, there are some notable dissenters. There have been some dissenters on the very left, actually, AOC and Ilhan Omar, who I usually, as you know, like completely disagree with on everything. I actually think they're being pretty reasonable here. Again, not saying that there's no threat on TikTok, but like if the federal government can unilaterally ban a single app or single social media company, well, A, that's kind of a free speech violation too. And then how would they use that power in the future? Would they use that, what if they ban, Facebook for allowing, Trump people to organize protests or COVID people to organize protests? I think it's really worrying just because the U.S. government has tried to do these things, right? They've tried to chill our speech so many times. So I'm really
Yeah.
reticent to give them like more power here.
Right. So they're wanting to ban it because they believe the Chinese are spying on us via TikTok and that they're gathering intel or that they're right. So all of these sinister things,
Yeah.
and that's what
Yeah.
they're thinking is it's a national security concern, and that's why they want to get rid of
Yeah.
TikTok. Which, yeah, under the pretense of national security, this is Patriot Act. So they would then be
Hmm.
able to have the power to go through every other social media, which they've been trying to do all of these really since vigorously since 2016, since they said, oh, the Russians got into the elections and it was Cambridge Analytica on Facebook. And, we can go through all the different things that they kind of accuse all these social media companies of. But so they would then be able to do this with this act, essentially. They would use that as a means to limit social media activity everywhere, saying, well, this is a national security concern. So you're not allowed to do XYZ thing or say XYZ thing. That's what
Yeah,
likely would
exactly.
happen.
The act is specifically geared at foreign threats, but we've seen how
Yeah.
foreign threats, how that concern has been weaponized against American speech because of the whole that's everything is Russian bots, everything is a Russian influence campaign, and we know that that rationale was wildly overstated. That a lot of actually normal Americans expressing speech were wrongly flagged as Russian bots by think tanks, by government-funded think tanks, media companies, um, uh, explicit government agencies and all that. So I really think we would repeat that. And the concerns about TikTok, look, I understand it's about data collection, and it's really about how I guess the Chinese government could shape the narrative on TikTok, because they can put pressure on them to de-algorithmize certain content and boost other content. But again, if you think that's wrong, and I do, by the way, absolutely think that's wrong, that is exactly what the FBI, the CDC, all these US agencies have been making YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and on do for years. So let's
Right.
not lose sight of that.
So the bipartisan pushback on this. So you've got Democrats and Republicans both saying, I don't think this is a good idea. So it's bipartisan saying, yeah, we got to ban it, and then it's bipartisan people saying, I don't think we should ban it. What's the reasoning for AOC and the progressives, and then what's the reasoning for the Republican side?
Yeah, so AOC actually posted her first ever video on TikTok about TikTok, saying kind of what I just said, that she understands the concerns, but this would be kind of unprecedented to not just have a law that kind of restricts or affects social media in general, but specifically, at least on paper, targets one specific company and bans them. A platform that, for better or worse, millions of young people use to create content, to communicate with their friends, to get news. Some good alternative news programs are available exclusively through TikTok. I think it's a good place to hear some perspectives you wouldn't find elsewhere. And that would be kind of a vast act of censorship, frankly, to take that out of your choice for whether you see that content, which is basically what AOC concluded. And then Tucker, was doing this monologue last night about how he thinks a lot of these provisions, and I agree with him, could potentially apply to all sorts of speech, would grow this vast federal bureaucracy that has targeted us. But he cited AOC, pointing out, obviously criticizes her all the time, but thinks she's being pretty reasonable here.
Isn't it interesting that the idea, especially if it was like Republicans that bring this up and say we've got to ban TikTok because China's spying on us, they're essentially turning us into China by doing that. I mean, it's like they don't realize that they're actually doing the very thing they despise. China bans social media out that they don't allow, they have their own versions of everything, their own Twitter, their own Facebook, their own WhatsApp, their own, all of these different platforms, because they don't allow the outside platforms in, and everything needs to be made in China. And interestingly, that's sort of where we're headed, where we're going to have, with this idea of we've got to ban TikTok, and they're doing it under the guise of national security, because that's how they do everything. But ultimately, they could say that about any company, and they'll say, well, unless it's made in America, it's a national security threat, which, it could lead to good outcomes in some ways. And maybe we would have more manufacturing and more products made in America, I suppose. But at the same time, we would be then no different than China on that. So I think that's kind of an interesting, are they even thinking about that? Then how would we be different?
Kim, that is such a key point, because you're exactly right. I've seen some people, when they're talking about the potential harms to TikTok, and I think some of the harms in terms of the addictiveness and children, using it too much, I think can be overstated. Certainly using any technology or social media platform to be bad for you. I don't really know that TikTok is worse than any others. I think in some circumstances it can actually be healthier than Instagram, which is very kind of surface deep, and the kind of mental health issues for young women, I think, is actually more prevalent on Instagram than TikTok. But but you're right that some people are bringing up this point. Well, China doesn't let its kids, its population, just use TikTok willy nilly. They have a very restricted version that's about how to be a good citizen and how that kind of thing. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's because they're an authoritarian country. Here in America, we don't say the government can only show you content about how to be a good citizen because we have free speech in the First Amendment. That's a good thing. We should not seek to emulate China's authoritarianism. China's authoritarianism is, I thought, the whole thing we were objecting to. So it's a really weird criticism that I'm seeing from a lot of people.
Yeah, if you don't want your kid looking at Instagram because you think it's unhealthy for their self-esteem, then you as a parent need to make that decision, not the government. And that should be the difference between China and the United States. Authoritarian countries that want to control their populations completely, and a free nation, or a nation that is supposedly supposed to be free, right? The United States, which, in many ways we're not, like with the Patriot Act stuff, and we've got and then now with this Restrict Act, and it just seems like they're going bonkers with this. But this definitely could be weaponized against us. I absolutely can see that. I haven't really been following the TikTok stuff as much. I've heard of this, but I've been so focused on other things that I knew that these hearings were happening and that there was these discussions that they were looking to ban TikTok, of course, thinking that's just a bad idea. Because also, okay, if the Chinese want to spy on us, I guess they could stick like microchips and cameras in everything that we own in our homes, right? I mean, everything we have is made in China. So if they want to spy on us, they could use the microwaves. Wasn't that something Trump said? Like they're using the microwaves our microwaves are spying on us. Okay. Well, then ban
I
microwaves.
never trusted my microwave, Kim.
Oh, Robbie, it was great to see you. Thank you for being on for my birthday. So great to have you.
My pleasure. Happy birthday, Kim.
Thank you. Well, if you owe back taxes or have unfiled returns, there's absolutely nothing to be embarrassed about because it can happen to anyone, especially if you're part of the gig economy or you're a 1099 because your company wants to save some money on their own taxes. This stuff has just been happening more and more. And this is also why the Biden administration is hiring all those they're saying that they're going to go after the rich, those 80,000 IRS workers, but really they're going after the gig economy. So let's get real. So if you owe back taxes, don't deal with the IRS on your own. Tax Network USA is a nationwide tax resolution firm who can protect your rights and settle your back taxes. And in some cases, they can even zero out your balance completely so that you don't owe anything at all. These guys are experts in all the IRS programs that are out there, and they understand tax law, so you don't have to. Over the last 14 years, Tax Network USA has saved over $1 billion in back taxes for their clients. They can even file your yearly returns to protect you from audits. So whether you owe a few $1,000s or you owe a few $1 million, if you're that lucky, they can help. I don't know if that's luck or not, right? But if you owe a few $1,000,000 and, you probably made a lot of millions as well, but nonetheless, they can help you. So even if you haven't filed in years, they can help you. Even if you have a payment arrangement already with the IRS, they can help you. All you've got to do is visit taxnetworkusa.com/Kim to find out more.